Hey guys, I thought I'd do a quick video on why a generator or kind of any small engine like this might have gasoline in the oil in the crankcase. And there are going to be two primary reasons, and let's take a look at the first one now. All right, the first reason on a generator like this would be, and pretty much the only reason I would look at for the most part, without digging too much into the engine, would be that we have an issue with the float needle and the seat in the carburetor. Now, if we take a carburetor, I'm not going to take this one off here if I don't have to, but I have another one here, and we remove the bowl. If you've never seen inside a carburetor, there's a float here, and when gas fills up inside the bowl, it lifts this float. Well, as it does that, as you can see here, that brass area there, that's where the seat is located, and when the float goes up, it pushes this needle up into the seat. And there's an actual needle. It looks like this. Okay, so I have two float needles here. The one on the right is rubber tipped, and if you actually touch that with your finger, you can feel that it is just a hard rubber. And the one on the left is metal tipped. So the rubber tipped one would go up into a metal seat, and the metal tipped one would go up into a rubber seat. And the issue with the flooding of the gasoline into the oil in the crankcase is with this bond between the needle and the seat. So there's some deformity or a tear in the rubber O-ring, the seat itself, or the rubber has become deformed on the tip of the needle. And when that happens, when the float rises up and it tries to cut off the flow of gasoline into the carburetor, the gas just keeps coming in because there's a compromised bond between the needle and the seat. So it just keeps, basically the float goes up and it does not cut off the gasoline. So what does the gasoline do? It rises up the tube here, the main jet, and it goes into the throat of the carburetor, where, if I can get that to turn, you can see that brass piece sticking up. The gasoline will flow up there, especially if the gas tank is above the carburetor. And then the gasoline is going to flow, depending on gravity, either out towards the air filter, or it's going to flow in towards the intake of the engine itself. If it goes into the intake, it'll then flow on top of the piston, and then it'll work its way around the piston rings and flow down into your crankcase. So basically, to fix this problem, all you have to do is take your carburetor apart and replace either the needle or the rubber O-ring that is the seat inside there. It's a cheap fix, really simple, not a big deal. If you're not mechanically inclined and taking this apart intimidates you, you can buy aftermarket carburetors on Amazon for really, really cheap, and 10 to 20 bucks depending on which model you need. So that's how you take care of that. Let's get on to the second reason. All right, the second reason would be if your generator has an external fuel pump like this. Now this Honda here is just gravity fed. It does not have an external fuel pump, but I have a Briggs & Stratton that I fixed up that does have an external fuel pump. And what happens with this is it's actually separated inside by a diaphragm. And on one side, this side right here, this is the P there is for pneumatic, I believe, for air. And this hooks up to the positive and negative pressures of your engine's crankcase. So as the piston goes down, it's going to pull air. And when the piston goes up, it's going to push air. And what that does on this side is it makes this diaphragm go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, making a mini pump out of this. And then the fuel goes in one way and out the other, as the positive and negative pressures basically pump it through. If your diaphragm on the inside is compromised, if it gets a tear, a pinhole, anything like that, then every time your piston goes down and it draws air out here, it's going to pull some fuel in through that pinhole, and it's going to then work its way eventually back into the engine's crankcase. So that would be the other reason why you would have gasoline in your oil. For a fix like this, newer fuel pumps that I've seen, you can't take them apart, you can't repair them, fix them, so you just got to replace it. Just take it apart, take a picture of where all the hoses go, and then put it back the same way. On my old Briggs & Stratton, I actually was able to take it apart and clean it up on the inside, and I got all my issues fixed with that. I did not have a hole in it, it just, things had moved around, and one of the screws was a little loose, and took care of that problem. So hope this helps you out, guys. So make sure to check the float needle and the seat, the bond between those in your carburetor. And then if yours has an external fuel pump, you're going to want to check that as well. Take it easy, guys. Thanks for the view.